Well, hey there, everybody. Bill Sherck, the man about the woods, along with my partner in crime, Laura Schara. Hi there.
Hello. We are live at the State Fair. How good does it feel to be back here at the State Fair?
Pretty unbelievable. We can hear the tractors on Machinery Hill. The dogs just wrapped up their jumping contest, and
The lumberjacks are climbing logs.
it's so much fun to be back here. Today's episode, Minnesota Bound, the stories behind the stories, is all about some memories of the fair. And we also threw out some questions to people, so we're going to answer a few of those today. The fair has been a part of my life, unfortunately, for a long, long time. What about you? Do you have memories? Did you grow up at the fair?
I definitely grew up at the fair. I, grew up as a barrel racer, so I was riding horses in 4-H since the age of 8. And, of course, 4-H is a big part of the Minnesota State Fair and the Great Minnesota Get-Together. So I have spent many, many years here at the State Fair. And, of course, when my dad started Minnesota Bound, he was part of the Northwoods show here. So we were always here helping with the ravens and making sure the retrieves and getting we're kind of the behind-the-scenes help as kids. So I've spent a lot of years here at the fair, so a lot of good memories.
So as a kid, we used to go into the barns and we'd see all the 4-H crews there. Did you get to stay overnight at the fair?
That is the best part is staying overnight at the fair. So
That's what I was going to ask.
You sleep on a straw bale or hay bale, and it's fabulous. You have a blanket, and it's pretty chaotic at the fair with horses and the crowds and keeping your horse calm and relaxed in those environments. But they did pretty well, and it was always just fun to be here with all sorts of kids your age.
And that's what I was going to ask, is the meeting new friends part. It always looks like there are just these little crews walking around.
Totally. Well, my sister and I both rode horses growing up, and the reason my dad put us into that sport is because it was all girls. There were no boys in it. So he's like, these girls can't get in trouble because there are 0 boys in the sport of horses at that time. It just seemed like literally it was 99% all girls. And so he just thought it was, a great environment for us to be a part of, in which it was. We had a lot of really good friends and, taught you a lot of responsibility, too, having to care for your horse and doing all that. So it was so much fun. A lot of great memories. What about you?
See, one difference between you and me. You are an ace with horses. I am not. The first horse I was ever on was unbelievable. Climbing a mountain, the thing was spraying fire out of its nose and foaming at the mouth and kicking.
Was it kicking?
You get one guess on that horse's name.
Let's see. Was it Diablo?
Rainbow Sparkles.
Awesome.
I never got along with horses.
Those mountain horses are pretty steady Eddie, though. They'll get you up there.
You'd come to the fair to ride horses. I'd come to the fair to sit on tractors. Machinery Hill was huge when we were kids, to get into a big John Deere tractor and crawl around and take pictures.
Awesome, I bet.
And then 20 years ago, I come to work with your father,
Ron
Schara.
Has it been 20 years? I asked you the other day, how many years has it been now that we've been working together?
20 years.
Wow.
And he put us to work in the Northwoods. The part of the fair where we are, the sign is hanging right up there. It's called the Northwoods, and it's kind of dedicated to the outdoor world. And my first assignment was go around and meet all the characters. So Smokin' Joe's, the guy yelling about beef jerky, who happened to be, for those of you who have heard him over the years, he's gone now, but he was the Zamboni driver, right, for the St. Paul Saints. So this part of the fair is all about those characters, and we have one of those characters sitting next to us. Does anyone know a guy by the name of Tim Weiss? Nobody knows Tim Weiss, but everyone knows Giggles.
Of course they do.
Giggles, how the heck are you?
Hey, I'm really good. Boy, those stories that you guys told, they are just spot on. I mean, Laura with the straw bale, with the hay bale,
yes.
and Bill. Yeah. I think one of the first interviews you did was me back 21 or 22 years ago. I mean, I was a long time ago. It's the great Minnesota get back together this year, I guess.
That's right.
And it's just so happy. I'm just so happy to be part of it and being back to work. I mean, I got the COVID 40 going on, and some of you guys know what that is. But I'm just so happy to be part of this and to be back to work. And if we make any money at this deal, that's gravy.
So the one person who might be listening to this who does not know who you are the proprietor of the giant campfire grill next to us. And every year, people are lined up about 25 deep at each cash register. You are out front waving signs and saying hello and making noise, and everyone wants your darn food.
That's because it's so delicious. Giggles, honestly, I think you have some of the best food at the State Fair, hands down. And the reason the lines are so long is because it's so good.
It's unbelievable. You've always got something new. This year?
Yeah, what do you have?
Bison bites.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Served with the bourbon glaze sauce. They are fantastic. They're really good. They come out of Denver, Colorado. They're making them for us. And if anybody from Minnesota is watching, we tried to buy from Minnesota people, but they said they couldn't produce enough for us. So that's why we had to go out to Colorado to get those. But Colorado's like Minnesota's little sister, so that's okay.
True.
That's all right.
Yep.
It's just it's a pleasure to be here, and we make most of our food by hand, but from scratch. I mean, at any given time, we'll have 30 or 40 young kids, down the basement making walleye cakes, making our world famous walleye cakes.
How many hours do you spend in the fishing boat to catch all those walleye for the State Fair? That's what I want to know.
Well, it's your dad. Your dad just claimed.
Oh yeah, he did. He does claim that, doesn't he?
Oh, by the way, I just want to plug Ron Schara. Ron Schara has been singing with our Wayne and the boys during the day, and I don't know if he's going to be here today or not.
He can't be here today, but he has been singing over at Giggles Campfire Grill.
Yeah, and they got a bunch of songs that they've rehearsed and they sing, and they're very good, very very good.
Do you have to fill him with s'more beer before he'll do that?
Let's not have another beer, Bill. Let's have some more beers.
It's my dad's new retirement is a country music store, I think. So he doesn't need any beer to get out there.
Shameless plug. Yes. Ron has a long history of singing. Giggles, do you have favorite memories of the fair? I mean, was there a fair before your restaurant?
Well, I've been in the restaurant business for about 40 years, Bill, and that is a very good question. I think probably the most memorable thing that I have here is the relationships that I've formed with other people, with the Bill Shercks, the Laura Sheriffs, the Smokey Joes, the Lumberjacks, the John Deere people, the Kemp's people, the Minnesota State Fair staff. I mean, I'm out here all the time. If you would ask me 20 years ago, would I be a carny, I would have laughed in your face. Now I'm out here shoveling my sidewalk during the wintertime. I mean, I can't get enough of it. I mean, it's just, when you're down at another fair or whatever, and I'm scoping things out, working, whatever, you tell them that you're from Minnesota and they bow to you. I mean, because we are at the greatest state fair in the country. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, those people from Texas, they can say they're the biggest, but we're the best.
We're the best by far.
There's nothing comparable.
And it is the relationships. I know that sounds a little bit thick, right? But
yeah, it does sound thick, but it's the truth.
There are people I see once a year.
Right.
And I see them here.
And you don't forget their name.
Nope.
I mean, it's just last night we had a NICA little meeting, and it was just really good to see everybody kind of back together again. Although it's a little different, there's no doubt about it. There's a little different. The one thing that the State Fair, when they made, and I know they got a lot of flack for it, they said 150 to 200 vendors were pulling out this year because of everything. And that's understandable. Not one food or beverage vendor pulled out. What do you come to the State Fair for? Food, drink,
and fun.
People watching, and the Midway.
Well, I was going to say walleye cakes.
Well,
that's on everybody's list.
That was a shameless plug.
And to look at that car of yours out front with that canoe on top. Someday, Giggles, someday.
You've been eyeing that car for years.
We're going to drive that thing around for a Minnesota Bound episode, and we're never going to stop. We're just going to keep driving.
You know, I just got it kind of a little bit rehabbed this year, and it's running, and it looks good, and I had a little work done on the canoe, and I mean, it's probably the most photographed car in America is what they tell me. You know, obviously we're at the Minnesota State Fair, but it stops everybody. And when I'm out on the corner hawking my wares and I see a little kid, I said, well, they're taking a picture. I said, well, get in there. And they're just there, you know.
It's a DeSoto.
Yeah, it's a DeSoto. It just lights up. A Suburban DeSoto. So Chevrolet must have bought the rights to Suburban to use that name is the only thing I can figure out.
Wouldn't it be a natural I drive a Suburban? I'm just saying. Just let me borrow it sometime.
I like that.
Thinking about it.
You ever seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Oh, what a great show. What a great show. Yeah. Matthew Broderick, right?
Yep. Well, Giggles, it sure is good to see you, and continued success to you. And I know the lines are deep at the Campfire Grill, and we love seeing that.
Thanks, Bill. And thanks, Laura, for having me.
Yeah, thanks
really
for stopping by.
appreciate it. And you guys are the best.
Appreciate it. Stop by Giggles in the North Woods. You will not regret it. I'm a fan of the walleye cakes personally, but I need to try the buffalo bites because I love bison.
Well, bison bites, and
Bison
I
bites.
got a little knowledge on buffalo because we wanted to call them buffalo, but we didn't want to scare the Minnesota people off because it might have been, you know, Buffalo, New York, buffalo wings, hot sauce. So I said, well, let's call them bison bites. Well, the state fair immediately said, well, they're buffalo bites, aren't they? I said, yeah.
No, they're
well,
bison.
Anyway, wherever in Australia or South America or whatever, they call them buffalo, water buffalo. In North
That's
America,
true. They call them bison.
they call them bison. So we were good.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
There it is.
I'll be over to see you in a bit.
Thank you very much.
Sure, it's good to see you.
Good seeing you.
Tim Giggles Weiss, love him. I look forward to seeing him every year. All right, we promised today we were going to take a bunch of questions from viewers. We are going to get to that. And of course, Laura, what's our biggest question about right now?
Minnesota bound Millie.
Yep, we will talk about Millie in just a second, but first, it is time to thank the wonderful sponsors that help make the Minnesota Bound podcast, the stories behind the stories, happen.
I am extremely picky when it comes to drinking water. I have the reverse osmosis drinking water system from Connecticut, and I love it. Not only does it take the contaminants out of my water, but it removes chlorine, and most importantly, it tastes great. Having Connecticut water also means I use less plastic water bottles, which of course we all know is a bonus for our environment. For more information, visit Connecticut.com to find a dealer near you. And also a word from Voyager Saunas.
Hey there, Bill Sherck, the man about the woods. You know what? It's time to relax, and Voyager can help. Voyager builds custom saunas for your home, backyard, business, and you know what? The pick of the Sherck family, we love Voyager's mobile saunas that go anywhere we want to go. Clear grade cedar benches, spray foam insulation, Kuma wood-fired stoves, or Hilo electric heaters. These are Finnish-influenced hand-built saunas that will last a lifetime. They're constructed with care by the hometown Voyagers team. You know, the Sherck family loves our Voyager mobile sauna. Voyager, a Minnesota movement influenced by Finnish culture. Visit VoyagerSaunas.com and get ready to distress. Trust me, it works.
All right, we've got that business out of the way. Now it's time to get to some of the questions. Laura.
We chatting about Millie?
We're chatting about Minnesota-bound Millie, who you sort of named, by the way.
Yeah, we sat in a team meeting. Scott Franson, who is the owner of Ron Share Productions, had a new puppy, and he suggested that we put Minnesota-bound Millie occasionally on the show. And we were chatting about what we should call her, whatever. And he, of course, named her Mildred Millie. And I suggested, why don't we call her Minnesota-bound Millie? Because she is our new mascot and brand ambassador of the show. And, we all discussed that she's not a replacement to Raven. Everybody loves Raven. Raven belonged to my dad. And that Millie is our representation of our love of dogs and hunting dogs. And so she is on board and as our new little mascot.
And she is a little fireball.
That she is. Little Millie is very vocal black lab at 5 months.
You'll notice when she sits on television with us, a lot of times Millie will sneak off to get into some sort of trouble.
It's not really sneaking. I almost feel like it's darting. She's darting off the set. We're like, bye, Millie.
There is a great balancing act when you try to shoot a bunch of television with a dog, right? Live animals are unpredictable, and right now she is just very excited is exploring the world.
And
so
she's
instead
young.
of trying to hold her back and say, sit with us and stay, we just sort of let her go. And that's fun. But yes, you will see Millie representing our company. Of course, we've got Minnesota Bound, but we do all these other outdoor television shows
That's
like
true.
The Flush and Due North Outdoors and Destination Polaris and Made for the Outdoors and Rooster Tales. And Millie just kind of is an icon to us of what the outdoor world is about.
That's right.
Is that fair?
That is very fair. Yeah, she's great, and you'll see her on her own little adventures here and there. I'm sure on The Flush and other places, too.
Yep, if you can keep up with her.
Exactly.
Laura,
She's always off looking for corn dogs here at the fair, I'll tell you that.
All right. We're going to have some fun. We're going to get some questions. We opened up our Facebook page a couple days ago and asked viewers to submit questions. And we have picked 10 of those people to earn a Minnesota Bound prize. And we got just dozens and dozens and dozens of questions. I want to run through the names of our winners first off, and then we'll get to some of their questions. Kelly Hendrickson, Jody Eastman Wested, Brenda Doherty, Renee Splett, going through my list here, Amy Asfali, Lynn Pickenen, Seth Nelson, Stacy Thompson, and I think we're going to save a couple more for live questions
audience, yes.
here at the fair. But we got so many darn great questions, and I'm just going to throw a couple at you, Laura, because what is important to the viewers are also important to us. Oh, no. Oh, no. Run. Hide. Find safety. Just as big as Giggles at the fair,
That's
Mr.
true.
Sean Emery. Remember when he said he was going to retire, and I said there's no way he would ever retire. I love seeing him back. And actually, one of our questions actually pertains to him.
Oh,
believe it
boy.
or not. Total luck of the draw there. But question number one comes from Kelly Hendrickson. Laura, I want you to answer this. If you could choose one place in Minnesota to visit, where would it be and why?
Ooh, so hard to choose. There are so many beautiful places in our great state. One place I fell in love with was Tetagooch State Park. So a couple of reasons. When I was up there doing a shoot, we were doing some fly fishing with Women on the Fly,
Yep.
a group that takes out women steelhead trout fishing, which was really fun. I stopped by the visitor center, that's where we met, and I went in and wanted to make sure I could pronounce this word, which is very lengthy, correctly. And I asked the visitor center a couple places on how to pronounce it, and one person said Tetagooch, one person said Tetagoochee, and one
Gucci.
person said some other version of that.
Yep.
And I was like, well, I guess all three, since I'm in the visitor center, work. However, what I fell in love with was the Baptism River.
Yes.
And that river is so stunningly beautiful. And if you have a chance to just walk along the side of the river, there are trails to hike up there. You will not regret it. It is a really spectacular place to just find some stillness and a real beautiful place, North Shore of Minnesota. So that would be one place I would definitely choose to revisit, absolutely, because it was pretty stunning. And the fishing, even the fishing that day was extremely slow. We happened to have a day that we were shooting was very hot. Trout were not biting that day, and that's okay. We didn't care. We still had a great time. So
an interesting story about the baptism. So I was a Boy Scout. I was an Eagle Scout, and I got my Eagle done at a pretty early age because I wanted to enjoy the adventures. In Troop 570, we would get on bikes and bike from Duluth to the end of the Gunflint Trail, and a trailer would meet us, take the bikes, give us canoes, and we'd come out on Snowbank on the Ely side. That's one of the summer trips I did when I was in junior high and high school each summer. But
how many miles is that you're biking?
too long, and there are just so many torrid stories to the biking end of that.
That's a long bike ride, Bill.
I can remember a year when they were redoing the Gunflint Trail, so it was all mud, and it was raining, and we had 60-some miles to get out of it. It just tore it. But we used to camp at Tettagooch, and we used to cliff jump at the baptism. And when you're 15 feet up looking down at that river, it feels like you're a mile up. And I had a guy here at the fair last week say, you ever heard of a red-eye bait? I use red-eyes to fish muskies. And it took me to the baptism river because I jumped, you swim out on the beach, and I felt this sting as I stepped out of the river. And here was this gigantic red-eye stuck in my foot that had somehow washed up on the beach or something like that. So we had to do a little first aid there, get it out. But I still have that red eye hanging on my desk, and I think of the baptism river every time.
Spot.
It is magical.
It is magical.
All right, let's move on to another question. Renee Splett asked another question about Millie. And maybe this is a question about your dog as well. Who will train the new pup?
Ooh, well, Scott Franson, it's his dog, so he's doing a lot of the basic training. I am not sure where he's going to send Millie for advanced hunting training, but of course, I'm sure that he will send her off to at some point to get some advanced training. But as far as my bacon goes, I did all the obedience training myself. Growing up, we always had 3 dogs, believe it or not. My dad went through a phase where he always loved the Black Lab, but then he wanted to try the Chesapeake. Then we had a Brittany Spaniel, and then we had more labs. And so, my dad was really a great dog trainer, but also wanted to make sure my sister and I knew how to train the dogs as well. So we were also in charge of cleaning dog kennels and emptying water pails and doing all that. So we learned a lot about dog training as a very young age. So my sister, with her dog, she does all of her dog training, and I've always done all of mine. So I hope I don't have to train Millie. I don't think so.
Well, if you are, that dog runs.
I know,
like
she
I
does.
said.
That little firecracker's a handful. So.
And then Bacon is just so mellow, just hangs out, says hello.
He is. Yeah, he is a chill boy. But, I socialized the heck out of him when he was little and introduced him to every noise and kids and everything possible. So he is really bomb-proof. I call him the bomb-proof dog. He's just a great dog. But
somebody asked if we're going to have Bacon
stuffed animals
here at the fair.
I know. I have had other people ask me about that. I may have to invest in some Bacon stuffed animals for the log cabin for next year. And I said it's a fair warning that there'll be a warning disclaimer tag on there that the dog snores when you get it home when it takes a nap or sleeps. So even though it's stuffed, I'm sure it'll still snore as a bulldog.
All right, let's get on to a couple more questions here. Here's one pertaining to the show. I like this. This comes from Brenda Doherty. What is your all-time favorite thing to do on the show? Besides hang out with me.
Yes. Of course, hanging out with Bill is number one, first and foremost, always. Favorite thing to do on the show? I have been asked this question before, and I don't have... My favorite thing is the amount I get to learn from others. So... when we're out with a fishing guide, for instance, the amount you learn about, not only their story, but really about fishing for muskies. I've learned a ton going out from fishing guides. Also, when we're doing the getting started stories of rock climbing, ice climbing, beekeeping, log rolling. I mean, you're always learning from these people who are so passionate about what they do for a living and what they love, that is my favorite part of the show, is that I get to learn so much about really interesting things. One of my favorite things that I went to that was really fun and I learned so much was the Dragonfly Festival, which is held by Three Rivers Park District in the summer. And I didn't know how fascinating dragonflies were. They're a prehistoric insect. At one point, the dragonfly was as big as your arm, as long as your arm, with a wingspan of probably like 4 feet wide. So huge, but they are an incredible environmental indicator of our clean water. So when people see a lot of dragonflies, that's a really, really good thing. And the dragonfly nymphs, of course, are born in water, and they stay underwater, I think, for like 3 years. So you can imagine the amount of predators that are trying to eat them and everything. So Dragonfly Festival is great for kids. You even get a chance, they give you a net to try to catch your own dragonfly out in the field. And I was running out there and missing all the time with the kids, and they were better at it than I was. But that was a really fun little event that I would highly recommend, but I definitely was a favorite place to learn some really interesting stuff.
And I think you said that day you just randomly saw Millie run by.
Yeah, I did, because she was on the dragonfly field as well, because she's just running around everywhere.
This is so much fun. We've got this little crowd here on the Minnesota Bound Cabin side. Some of our guests, you guys are from Red Wing. Where are you guys from? Scottsdale. You came up here to cool down from Scottsdale, Arizona. And the better looking half of that crew is wearing a Vikings skull headband. I love it.
And our teacher said, "Wine is my spirit animal." There we go. I love it.
The beer guy is over here with the hop hat and the beer shirt, which looks like a grizzly with... Where are you guys from?
Some antlers.
Spring Valley. Beautiful part of the state. Nice and quiet. So just fun to have a crowd here. All right. Before we get to our next break, let's get through one more question here. Yes, a dog question. This is one we get a lot from Amy Asfali. I hope I'm saying that name right. Laura, this one was specifically for you. How many ravens over the years, and do they live with Ron or someone else?
It's a good question. We've posted this question as a trivia question before, and we've had the answer of anywhere from a couple all the way up to 15 ravens. There were 3 ravens total throughout my dad's career, and all of them lived to be anywhere from 12. And the last raven passed away this past winter during COVID at the age of 13 and a half. So she lived a really long, great life, and there are no more ravens.
And you were with her.
I was with her, yeah. It was very peaceful, and we played some Native American flute music, which is some of my favorite, most relaxing things to listen to, and I also saged her, and, we said good luck over the Rainbow Bridge, and it was a sad moment and very hard for our family, but that was the last raven. My parents now spend a lot of time in Palm Springs in the winter, and they do a lot more traveling. And so my dad said that was the last of the ravens. And my sister has a young female black lab named Raya. And so if my dad wants to go hunting, he can borrow Raya, and she'll do a great job for him. So there's still black labs in our family for sure, but no more ravens, unfortunately.
Raven, what a legacy here in the state.
Yeah.
Not just for the television show, but just representing everything outdoors in this state. Pretty magical. And, Ron will still tell you that was all by accident and luck.
It was, too.
And what an amazing run. Do you know that your dad actually accused me of trying to kill Raven?
When did this happen?
A long time ago.
Were you feeding her like M&Ms or something?
So when I got hired at one of the very first shoots where the dog is sitting on the hay bale with Ron, nobody could see this, but to keep the dog engaged, we would kind of stand behind the camera and juggle biscuits and treats and anything to just keep Raven engaged. Well, we get done shooting, and now we've got to tear down lights and microphone cables and all this stuff. And you hear Ron just scowl. And there's like this 5-gallon bucket tipped over on its side of Eukanuba treats.
Oh, and she was probably going to town on those.
Gone. And Ron looks at me and says, "You're trying to kill the dog." Well, what he had not seen that day, Raven used to have a brother who your sister owned. What was that dog's name?
That was actually Raven original son, Hoosier.
Hoosier.
Yes, so that was, my sister kept one of the puppies from the original Raven's litter.
Aptly named because Hoosier was just a chunk. Like he was a massive dog. And we had tried to stop Hoosier from eating all these biscuits and finally had to just give up.
Yeah, he was like almost 100 pounds. He was a big boy.
So Raven actually never touched them. It was Hoosier that ate all the biscuits that day.
My dad was confused.
Nope.
Well, lucky.
Nope, you didn't
the
know
dogs
any
got
different.
lucky that day.
We never fessed that up till right now, but a wonderful memory. All right. we've got some more questions to go. You're
do.
listening to the Minnesota Bound podcast here at the State Fair, the stories behind the stories. But before we get to our next questions, we need to pay a few bills. Here we go.
Minnesota's wildlife management areas are a vast array of lands across all of Minnesota. These 1,440 wildlife management areas are valued for wildlife and Minnesota's outdoor recreation opportunities. Annually, the DNR maintains hunter walking trails, plants food plots for wildlife, and develops acres and acres of prairie and grasslands. To find out more about Minnesota wildlife management areas, go to www.mndnr.gov/WMAS.
Start planning your fall hunt in North Dakota at legendarynd.com. You know, North Dakota is home to more than 800,000 plots, hunting acres. Those acres are private land that is open to public hunting, and the plots map guides show you exactly where all that land sits. You know, North Dakota's ringneck pheasant crowing counts are up 15% this year. And of course, that takes good habitat. The state is also home to an estimated 2.9 million breeding ducks. North Dakota, it's an absolute outdoor oasis just waiting. Bag your limit this fall in North Dakota. Visit legendarynd.com.
Do you know what it costs to heat water at your home, cabin, or business? No? Well, we do. Based on data from the U.S. Department of Energy, the average annual savings for homes that heat their water with propane rather than electricity is $175. You can save energy and get 2.5 times as much hot water compared to the average electric water heater. Let's save energy and money with the cleaner, greener fuel, propane, the right energy right now.
All right. Wonderful. Welcome back to the Minnesota State Fair. Laura Schara, Bill Sherck. We had Giggles in. Shug, Sean Emery has walked by. We have a crowd here. I see some familiar faces, old friends. Good to see you guys. I need to get in for an oil change with him, by the way.
You got your friends here, Bill? Called in all the
kinds. You know, we talked about it earlier. The State Fair is all about relationships, right?
That it is.
And seeing people. And for us, for the television show, that is part of it too. We get to see the most magical parts of the state, but we also get to meet all of the people who make it happen. And we have a pretty good mark coming here for the show. In mid-November, we are going to celebrate the 1,000th episode of Minnesota Bound.
26 years.
Which in television talk for local television is unheard of.
It is unheard of. And I was trying to do the math on how many hours of filming it takes to get to 1,000 episodes. And I don't think probably a lot of people understand how many hours of television we film just to get to a 3-minute to 4-minute segment that you'll see on television. It's quite a few hours. I think it's anywhere from 5 to 8 or more.
It is a lot.
It's a lot of hours just for one 3 or 4 minute segment. So if you want to do that math, which I don't want to do right now without a calculator.
I know, we're going to need another abacus to get through that one.
Totally.
But every time we go out the door and shoot, we meet people. Our best stories are all about
the people who love Minnesota.
People. They're not always characters. They're just people.
We always say, too, when we're meeting as a group to decide what stories we're going to film for each season, the story is never about how many fish we can catch, and it's never about how many pheasants we have in the gang bag or anything like that. It's always about the story of the person and that character who's really passionate about what they're doing. So we always make sure we have a wide variety of different characters, people, places, things to do when we're collectively meeting to go over each of our seasons.
And your dad was brilliant. Back in the day, Ron would only hire seasoned, award-winning news staffers, photojournalists who were fighting deadlines every day out in the field, out in the weather. He would hire those folks, and he didn't necessarily want people who were really interested in fishing or hunting or camping. He wanted people who loved cameras and loved gathering stories because he knew they would be focused on trying to tell the very best story. And that's kind of how I came into the fold. Some people don't know this, but I used to be a news guy back in the day. And it was funny because I wrote your dad a letter and I asked for a job. He said, well, I can't pay a guy like you. So
It's funny, I heard the same thing.
I know. Right.
Actually, I did volunteer for a long time, Bill, just so you know. Yeah. I was a volunteer.
So nobody knows this, but remember the show World News Tonight?
Yes.
So I was writing stories for Minnesota Bound and also working on World News Tonight at the same time. And one I liked a whole lot more than the other. And finally I signed on full time. It was an interesting story. Nobody knows this except Aaron Ochtenberg and Steve Plummer, who have both been directors of photography. I took a phone call walking out of the office. Yep, sounds good. Okay, see you Monday, babe. Hung up the phone, and Aaron looked at me and he said, who was that? I said, well, what does it matter? He said, was that Babe Winkleman? I said, yep. And that was a Friday afternoon. Your dad called at 9 o'clock that night, and I had a job with Ron Schara Production.
Awesome.
And Ron has asked me 10 times over the years, did Babe Winkleman really call you? I said, yep. Yeah, it was actually a call from Winkleman.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we're happy that you said yes 20 years ago to working for Ron Schara Productions, for sure.
I beg to say yes. What a job to have, right?
I know, right? Same here. I actually asked my dad if I could be a part of the show, and I wanted to do unique things right to do in the metro area. And he said, well, we'll start on a volunteer basis, and we'll see how you do. And for a long time, I, too, held a full-time corporate job while I was doing all the outdoor television on the side. So you're definitely burning the midnight oil until the right opportunity arrives. And I'm thankful, of course, that it did, and here we are.
Better to be lucky than good.
Well, we have more questions from Facebook, and this one's for you, Bill. Speaking of our show, this is from Gina Bancroft. How long does it usually take to shoot, edit, and script a show?
That's a great question. It perpetually changes, and it depends on the project. For a regular old Minnesota Bound, just 4-minute story that we're going to air in an episode, a lot of times we will go out and shoot for one day. And that might be 4 hours of time with the camera. It might be 8 hours. It might be 3 hours with the camera, but a 5-hour drive to Fergus and a 5-hour drive back. So it just really depends. But what happens is once we get that tape back in-house, or tape, I'm old school. No, it's computer chip. We actually sit down at a computer and we watch every second of that video. And we make notes. And you gather all these pieces of the puzzle. You know, words from interviews, sounds from the stream, pictures from sunset, sunrise. And it's almost like you have all these pieces of a puzzle laying in front of you on sheets of paper. And we just put those into order. And that's the job of the writers. You know, that's what you do. That's what I do. And sometimes that'll take a day to log the tape and then 3 days to stare at the words and go, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Oh.
Other times, a couple hours, you click it out and it just makes sense and we're done. So it's very, very flexible, right? But I will say we do run this as a business. You know, we would not be here if we didn't do it that way. So we set deadlines for ourselves on shoots and everything else we do, and we make sure we get it done in a timely fashion. Boom, 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 so we can move on to the next project, like any other business would.
I think a lot of people, I get the question of, I saw you did something on, social media. When is that going to air, et cetera? And we film all of our stories a year out. So what we filmed last fall will be airing this fall.
Yep.
And of course, we're shooting. As we're writing the fall stories that will air this fall, we're also shooting the fall stories which will air next year. So it's kind of this cycle that just keeps going and going and going and going. So I always thought that was an interesting tidbit, that we are not like the news, because we want to air things when people can go out and do that activity, of course. And news is quick turn stuff, and we're more of storytellers. So it takes a little bit longer.
Every once in a while, we break away from that.
That's true. That's true. Like state fair shows and things like that.
State fair show. We have a piece airing this weekend. I'm not going to give it away, but it's a story on a 6-year-old whose mother sent us a note and said Leo wants to go for a boat ride. And when we heard Leo's story, we said, we're going to take Leo on a boat ride tomorrow. Would you allow us to document this? And his mom said yes, and that story airs this weekend. It is very poignant, but there's some stories you cannot wait on.
That's true.
That's all I'll say about Leo's story.
That is true. Here's another question from Lynn Pykonen, I think is how you say that. Who wrote the catchy tune to your show?
Great question. So much of television and commercials these days, there are these national groups you can belong to where people sit in little rooms, they don't get fed, they don't get water, they just crank out little bits of music all day long. And so there are these libraries of music, and it's funny because you'll hear some of the same songs appearing at different shows, you'll see a commercial. We belong to one of those, but we would never dare allow Minnesota Bound to be branded by such music. So Ron hired one of his buddies in the music business back in the day, a local guy by the name of Dale Menton, who has produced all kinds of little jingles and songs, and they worked really hard to come up with the Minnesota Bound theme. Dale did that. It is synonymous with the show. You will be in an elevator someplace random, and you will hear somebody joking with you, humming the theme song, and that's all because of Dale. And if you listen very carefully to this podcast, it is one of the original different off versions of the theme song that they did not choose for the television show, but 20-some years later we said, well, that's kind of cool, and so we use it for the podcast. So thanks, Dale.
Thank you, Dale. Here's another question from
I'm glad I knew it.
Matthew Stewart. That was a great story, Bill. What's the coolest place you have ever filmed an episode?
Oh, boy.
A lot of them.
Oh, boy. Right. That's a near impossible
I know.
task.
Maybe almost coolest place because there's so many cool places.
Right. You look at our state. You go to the southeast portion. The glaciers never got there. They stopped about at Red Wing. So you've got these bluffs and these spring-fed trout streams that are unbelievable, which look nothing like the southwestern part of our state, which is prairie and heavy agriculture. Shout out to my wife. That's where she's from, St. James. You go up the North Shore, right? You've got the cliffs. It looks like the Pacific Coastal Highway along the ocean, right? We've got Lake Superior, which is unbelievable. We have an elk herd in the northwest part of the state. We have the woods in the north central part of the state. We are so diverse as a state, right? All of them are equally incredible to visit. You know, it's probably a cop-out of me to say we've had a chance to literally travel the world. Rapala, which is synonymous with our state. Well, their world headquarters are in Finland. So we've had a chance to go to Finland a couple of times, north of the Arctic Circle, and those are amazing stories because you get to the Baltic in Finland, and it looks no different than Lake Vermilion or Lake of the Woods. They are the exact same landscapes. And to be so far away from home, but feel like you're there is pretty incredible. And the people are amazing. I don't always understand them because they speak a different language, right? But Petri and Teemu and all our friends there, just that's been a wonderful spot to go for me.
So
personally.
it's outside of Minnesota, across the pond?
I mean, if, right, all the stories here, right? You know, there are certain ones that get branded in your head. We went over to see the beaches of Normandy.
Yeah,
because
pretty
there was
cool.
a Minnesota tie there. And to be at the American Cemetery, if that doesn't change you as a person,
100%.
I don't know what in this world can, right? Those are important moments that stick with me.
For sure.
Anyhow, there you go.
Lots of places. Too many to list out, that's for sure.
Yep.
This is an interesting question from Seth Nelson. I think we know the answer to this. He said, do headphones float? Mine are at the bottom of Lake Minnetonka. So, Seth, I think you answered your own question, but Bill said he might have some advice for you.
So Ron is a very thrifty boss. Back in the day when he owned the company, right, he would say, take care of the gear, manage the money like it's your own, which is fantastic advice, right?
Yes, expensive gear, too.
So we were up documenting the ice fishing extravaganza in Brainerd, which if you don't know what that is, it's the largest ice fishing tournament on the planet. 13,000 holes. And I had always said, well, gosh, the biggest ice fishing tournament or the world record tournament needs the world's most ice fishing holes. So we did a piece the day before on all the people coming out to drill. They bring out kids who get the day off school. They bring in inmates from the jail to pick up augers, and they drill. But the day of the actual tournament, we needed a few shots of people fishing. And most people know it. I've been part of the extravaganza for many years. We have a family place on Gull Lake, and so I was fishing. And at this point, the photographer, Cy Dotson, I can say his name, he won't be too chagrined. He comes walking back with his gear sled, and he's got this look. I went, uh-oh. And this is how he said it. He said,
Was he pale?
dude, the camera just went down the hole.
The whole camera or the lens?
I went, what? So he had kneeled over to get a close-up shot of a bobber sitting on an ice hole, in an ice hole. We actually have the shot, believe it or not. He's recording, and the lens, which at that time was about a $20,000 piece of a $42,000 camera, comes unattached and just drops down the hole. And you see this blurry picture, and you just hear 50 people laughing, right? Because they're out
They think it's
drinking
funny.
and ice
Yeah.
fishing. Meanwhile, I looked at Cy and I said, well, okay, which hole? I'm sure you marked it right. And he kind of scratched his head and looked at me like, oh, man. So I ran into town. I got ropes. I got magnets. I got treble hooks for whales. And we went back out. I left Cy. I said, you find the hole. So we went back out. Sure enough, we found the hole. And at that time, there weren't GoPro cameras. We had these big, clunky underwater cameras. So we drop it down, and here in 28 feet of water in the sand is the lens just smiling back at us. I said, okay, I can do this. So you have to picture us, right? It's sunny on the snow. I'm laying over this hole with a bunch of drunk anglers trying to fish around us. Cy's laying on top of me so I can shadow the screen and see what we're trying to do. We couldn't get this stupid lens. The magnet didn't work because it's aluminum. I can't get it hooked. My forearm's about to fall off because I've been twisting this cable for an hour. And I give up, and I pull this thing up, and I'm just cursing the world, and I look, and here hooked to the edge of the camera is the lens, because there's one little stainless steel screw, and I just popped it and fell out onto the ice.
Ooh, luck was
And
on your
the
side that day.
Entire extravaganza just went crazy. We had 1,000 people around us who just hoot and hollered. You could hear the beers just going all around us. And we took that lens back. We took it apart. We dried it out.
Saved the day.
So there you go. Things sink like headphones and lenses, but they do come back.
That's true. Do you have any favorite bloopers? We'll end with that. What's a blooper? Because I've got a good one, too.
Nothing. I never kind of screw up. What about you?
No, never? Oh, my goodness. Well, I have of course, we do wild game cooking, Wild in the Kitchen on Minnesota Bound. And as you can imagine, there could be some mistakes. And if it goes wrong, we're kind of in a no-oh stage. But we were cooking a Christmas goose. And when you cook a Christmas goose, it takes about 4 hours to complete the goose in the oven, of course. And there's various steps that you go to get the golden brown, crispy skin on the Christmas goose. And so I was working with the chef, and of course, we're prepping one goose that has not been cooked at all. And we already have one goose that's been cooking for a while, et cetera. And he took it out. We did some basting. We were showing how you have to baste the goose. And then, of course, you turn the temperature up actually quite high towards the end of it to kind of get the crispiness going. And at some point, when we were back filming how did you prep the goose, someone in the kitchen where we're working at the restaurant accidentally bumped the oven and somehow turned it up to like 550 degrees. And so we're just about to wrap up our Christmas goose, and we get to taste everything at the end, and it's so good. And he opens up the oven, and the goose is completely black. I'm not even a slight tint of brown. It was charred black. And he's like, oh no. And I'm thinking, oh no, we don't have 4 hours to sit here anymore. So he's like, I think I can salvage it. And, he went to like kind of cut off a leg, and the thing just crisped right off and broke like a dead bone. And so we scraped away the black char goose, and instead of presenting this beautiful brown, perfectly cooked Christmas goose, we had to slice it up. And actually, it still tasted pretty good on the inside, because that was the whole thing, is how to keep it moist and juicy on the inside and have this crispy skin on the outside. But it was way too crispy, and I was dying laughing. I'm like, this is hysterical. I wish we could have shown how black that goose came out. And of course, the chefs, they're like, no, this
That's
cannot be my reputation.
Yes.
But someone bumped the oven somehow, and that thing was toasted.
Was it Chef Jim?
No, it was Chef Paul. When we were rotating, we do Chef Jim. Chef Jim's great. I haven't had too many bloopers with Chef Jim. Actually, I don't think we've ever had a blooper with Chef Jim. So
I was being facetious, by the way, right? We
Yes.
screw things up all the time.
Of course. That's the best part. I wish we could show more of our bloopers.
We
there's
slip,
a
we
lot
fall
of them.
on skis,
Oh, yeah.
boat plugs, don't always get into the back of the boat before we go, just all kinds of stuff. But it's life, and it happens
is
to everyone.
life.
And honestly, we put most of that stuff in the stories.
We do. I was out
Because
with a world
that's what-
champion ski juror, and I took him out. It was my fault, skiing 2 times.
Yep.
Yeah. And he was like, please don't put that on the TV, because he's a world champion ski joring.
Yep.
And it was not his fault that he fell. It was totally mine. I mean, I took him out so hard twice. But it does happen. I love to show the mistakes, though.
All right, last thing before we go away. Do you have any fun upcoming stories that people will see on the air? I want to ask that because we've got such a fun crowd here. I can't believe anyone would stop to take the time to hang out with us and listen. So thank you very,
Yes,
very much.
thanks
We
for being
appreciate you
here.
guys.
We do appreciate it.
What stories do you have coming up?
Oh, my goodness. What stories are airing coming up?
Yeah,
I went goose hunting with Corey Loeffler. He owns DRC Calls, and he was a national goose calling champion at a very, very young age. And he picked up a goose call randomly and started practicing in his basement and decided at, I think, the age of 12 it didn't sound right, so he made his own. And he ended up winning the goose calling championship nationally with his own goose call, and now he, of course, has DRC Calls, and we did a little goose hunting, and he taught me how to call in a goose, which is not
I was
easy.
going to ask, did you try to call?
Of
more,
course.
More bloopers.
Yeah, there's a lot of bloopers in that one. I was like, okay, this is definitely a little embarrassing, but you know what? Calling in a goose or a duck, I mean, it really is like playing an instrument. You definitely have to practice. Do not expect that you're just going to pick up a goose or a duck call and sound like a goose or a duck immediately. But we were filming, and I was sounding more like I was stepping on a cat's toe versus a goose. And I was like, why does this sound so high-pitched versus yours? And he takes it, and he's like, oh, I forgot to tune it. And I'm like, after we filmed all of this.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, and he did tweak it, and so then I had a lower tone. But by the end of it, we were out with some guys in the goose blind, and I was participating with everybody to call in some
That's
geese.
awesome.
So we did it. But so I have that coming up. How about you?
That's awesome. I don't know, all kinds of stuff. The
Yeah, you
hunting
do.
season is coming, so we've got stories of family from hunting camps. Probably our biggie this winter. Remember the big cold snap last year that zapped us 40-some below zero? I'm the winter camping guy, so yeah, the Scottsdale family is like, no, it was 72 that day.
He loves negative 40. That's
So
right up your alley.
We took some newbies out into Voyageurs National Park at 44 below zero to see if they could winter camp for a couple of days. So a few surprises in that story.
I bet. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We appreciate you being part of the Minnesota Bound podcast.
How about a shout out for Brandon over here?
Our producer.
Senior engineer who takes care of us and does such a great job. The Minnesota Bound podcast, you can find it anywhere. You find podcasts online, and we've been talking here. I need to find our sponsor sheet. And thank all our wonderful sponsors here who help make the podcast happen.
Well, we got Connecticut Water.
Blooper right now.
That's right. Connecticut Water, Minnesota DNR, North Dakota Tourism,
The Minnesota Propane. And Voyageurs Saunas. Did I say it right? Saunas. Eric loves when I screw that up. I'll get it right someday.
And last but not least, what do we always say?
Introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
That's right.
Talk
Always.
to you next week, Laura.
Sounds good.
Thank you.